You are not born as a leader. You're chosen to be made one by God. Be excellent. Be simple. Be authentic. Be a leader. You must choose your life journey. Experience a God who's for you. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Leadership Lifter. I'm your host, David Blunt. I just want to encourage you, if the Leadership Lifter podcast is adding value to your life, if we're helping you, which is our objective to do that, would you put like and share? We'd like to expand our reach. We'd like to help more people. It helps us do that by you putting like and share. We appreciate that so very much. Today, if you look on the screen with me, I want to talk to you about how to keep improving my life. How to keep improving my life. I believe those of you that are watching right now, I believe you have that mindset that you want to get better, that you want to be the best version of who you can become. And how do I become that person, Pastor Blunt? How do I become the best version of who I am? How do I do that? I've heard that. I heard that I'm to get better every day, that I'm to keep improving, I'm to keep growing. Somebody said the biggest room in my life is the room for improvement, the room for improvement. And I believe that all of us, we want to get better. We want to improve our life. And so how do I do that? We're going to talk about that today, 5 ways on how to improve my life, how to get better, how to be the best version of myself. Now, as a little, cherry on top of the sundae of this whole podcast, this is a freebie right up front. I become the best version of myself when my thoughts, my words, and my actions line up with my goals. When my thoughts, when my words, when my actions every day line up with my objective or my goals, that's how I become a better version of myself every day. And you know what? That's a lifelong journey, isn't it? To keep working every day intentionally on how I think, on what I say, and what I do. For example, if I say I want to lose weight, then I can't eat Doritos every night before I go to bed. See, that action doesn't line up with my goal of being fit and losing weight. So it's when my words and my thoughts and my actions line up with my goals. Every day I become a better person. I'm improving my life. I'm becoming a better version of myself. That was a little freebie bonus time on the side, okay? So let's get into the 5 principles. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. Romans 12, 1 and 2, New Testament. Here's what it says. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And then verse 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed. We're talking about improving our life through transformation, life change. How? By the renewing of your mind. So all change starts in my mind. All improvement starts with my thought life. Somebody said, quoting scripture, actually, as a man or a woman thinketh, so are they. So notice I'm transformed and not conformed. I don't become like the masses. I rise above the crowd. I become the best version of who I want to become. I become that person of every day, getting just a little bit better every day. How? Not conformed, but transformed by the renewing of my mind. All change starts in my mind. What you have in your mind will happen in time. I'll say that again. What you have in your mind will happen in time. That you may prove what is, now watch this. We're talking about how do I improve my life? Well, it starts with my thought life, but look at this. The good, the acceptable, and the perfect will of God. So notice the will of God, there's different levels. There's the good, that's the first level. Second, acceptable. Third level, perfect. So notice that there's different levels in the will of God, our walk with God. That tells me that I'm constantly should be improving. It's God's will. God always wants me to have the best. God always wants you to go for the best that he has for you. We do it transitioning through transformation, through life change, by improving our life, starting with our thought life. It's so powerful, isn't it? So, number one, a growth mindset. How do I improve my life? I improve my life by having a growth mindset. In other words, I'm intentional about my learning. I'm intentional about my learning. My daughter-in-law, for not this last year, but a few years ago for Christmas, one of the things she wanted was a book club where she could read books, every month. And so what is that? That's intentional. It's intentional learning. We're lifelong learners, but I have to be intentional. It's not automatic. Growth is not automatic, it's intentional. So, how do I improve my life? Well, by having a growth mindset. What is your mindset today? What do you dream? What do you think? What do you imagine? Negative or positive? A lack or abundance mindset? Are you intentional? Do you on purpose say, I'm going to read 2 chapters a day? I'm going to read 3 chapters a day of this particular book. I'm going to read one book a month. Have you set goals in your reading, in the skill of reading? I remember years ago, Charlie Tremendous Jones gave me a book entitled How to Read a Book. Amazing, isn't it? How to read a book. He gave me a book that would teach me how to read a book, how to get the most out of the book, and then how to apply what I learned. It's one thing we say we learned it, but we really didn't learn it until we applied it and got results from it. So 5 ways on how to improve my life. Number 2, a personal growth plan. A personal growth plan. Do you have a plan for the rest of this year, the last quarter of this year, and growing in every area of your life? Years ago, I was at a John Maxwell conference in Kansas City, Missouri, and I heard him say that when he was young and starting out in ministry and public speaking, that he asked this one guy that he highly respected. He said, if you'll go out to lunch with me, I'll give you $100. Well, the guy did. Well, I heard John tell that story. So at the end of the session, it was right before lunch, I ran right up to the front of the line. People were standing in line, but I ran right up to the line. I waited in line to get to the front. And I said to him, John, this is to John Maxwell, I'll give you $100 if you'll have a 1-hour lunch with me today. He said, forget the $100. Let's go have lunch. So he and I went to the back room, an office back there with the pastor that was hosting the conference. We ordered Subway sandwiches from Subway. And as we're sitting there, the first thing John Maxwell asked me, not how big is your church, how big is your ministry, how many books have you written, or what have you achieved, what college, what degree. The first thing John Maxwell asked me out of his mouth was, Dave Blunt, do you have a personal growth plan? I never forgot that. See, he was qualifying me where I was at on how he could help me. So it's so important then, if I'm going to improve my life, I've got to have a plan. Somebody says if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail. How to improve my life? Number 1, have a growth mindset. Number 2, a personal growth plan. And number 3, right relationships. I've got to be selective to be effective. I've got to have the right relationships. Somebody said that your next breakthrough will come through a relationship. I'll say that again. Your next breakthrough will come through a relationship. Charlie Tremendous Jones, I'll quote him again. I'll never forget the time he told me the statement, and then he gave me a little placard, and I have it in my library. He said, you'll be the same person you are today, 5 years from today, except for the people you meet and the books that you read. How true is that? So if I'm going to improve my life, I've got to be really choosy on who are going to be my relationships. I've got to be intentional for right relationships. In other words, the areas that we need to grow, We need to find people who are strong in those areas and learn from them, the good, the bad, the ugly. You've heard the phrase, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. We'll never rise above our relationships. You might have heard this, our relationships determine our achievements. Our relationships determine our achievements. Birds of a feather flock together. We become like those that we're around. Wise people walk with wise people. Proverbs 13:20. So your next breakthrough possibly will come through a relationship. So you need to have the right relationships and be intentional. Look at their track record. Look at what they've achieved. Look at who their friends are. Observe, their family. If you can, observe their friends. Observe the way they talk, the way they walk, the way they react, the way they respond, and learn from them. So how do I improve my life? By having the right relationships in my life, being intentional. Big word, intentional. And number 4 of the 5 of how to improve my life. Again, if this podcast is helping you, would you please put like and share? It helps us reach more people and add value to their life. Number 4, a positive faith attitude. A positive faith attitude. Notice that our attitude determines our altitude. We learned that, years ago, from the power of positive thinking. We learned it from Zig Ziglar, how to be a positive person in a negative world. Attitude determines my altitude. More people are fired from their job over attitude rather than ability. Attitude is huge. It will cause you and I to stand out above the rest. When right now so many people are angry, bitter, resentful, upset, we hear it. The majority of people in the workplace don't like where they work. I heard a figure just the other day, 80% of people in the workplace want a different job or unhappy where they work. Well, here's what I know. Nothing changes until I change my attitude. Nothing changes until I change my attitude. I know that like kind reproduces like kind. What do you mean, Pastor? Negative people with a negative attitude don't attract positive people with a positive attitude. Having a positive attitude, you've got to be intentional. You've got to feed your attitude. It's so important. You got to feed your attitude every day because it gets drained every day throughout life. Again, the big word, intentional. How to improve my life? It's not automatic. You've heard me say this word over and over again. I've got to be intentional. I've got to think every day. I can't have stinking thinking, hardening from the attitude up. I can't do that. I've got to have a positive attitude, positive outlook if I want to improve my life. And then number 5, we'll close with this, a daily routine. How to improve my life? A daily routine. That is so important. If I'm not intentional with a daily routine, you know what? I'm forfeiting my future. If I'm not intentional, somebody said that your future is hidden in your daily routine. If I'm not intentional with a daily routine, or we might call it habits, if I'm not intentional with that, then I'm forfeiting my future. Show me your habits, I show you your future. The daily process is actually more important than our goal setting. We want to focus on the process even more. And I'm a big goal setter. I'm a big dreamer and a visionary like most of you. But we've got to focus on that daily routine, those daily habits. Habits are like a bridge. They take you from where you're at to where you want to be. Show me your habit, I show you your future. Habits determine my character. My character is a result of my habits. That's huge. 5 ways on how to improve your life. Change a habit, change a life. You've heard that before. Change a habit, change a character, change direction, change a destiny. It's huge. I hope we've helped you with these 5 ways to improve your life. I'm praying for you that the best is yet to come. Don't quit. Don't give up. We all get weary, but get back up and keep on keeping on and improving your life. The best is yet to be. Hope you enjoyed it. Push like and share. A friend, until next time, never forget, I believe this, God is for you.